Hello, guys. I'm truly humbled to be here today with Sebastien and Cyril to talk about the DAO. And I've been following, guys, what you've been doing for the past 4 years, I'd say, since the white paper. And knowing for the past week that there will be a DAO without being able to talk about it was very frustrating, to be really honest. But I'm truly humbled to be here and really happy to have you guys with us. Nice coffee. Go for it. Because Sebastien was on the former panel, so he might be a little bit tired. Let's get directly to the subject. Can you please tell us what is the Sandbox DAO?
I want to jump. So a quick introduction, if you're not familiar. First, what is Sandbox? Sandbox is a decentralized virtual world where anyone can become a creator, making 3D content and experiences, truly own them as we use blockchain technology and NFTs right from the beginning, and allow them to publish that experience on a land where other users can access. That was really the beginning of Sandbox. And it turned into this big platform that count more than 5.8 million users, 800 major partners, and just past 1,000 games and experiences live. Since the beginning of the white paper that we published back in 2020, we always had the idea that we would want to decentralize fully toward the community, the whole platform, and allow the sandholders and the landowners to participate in the governance of that world. So basically, the Sandbox DAO is now the foundation we've established and all the tools and the platform on top of it that allow people to participate in voting on the key decision of the platform and setting the future roadmap of both the Sandbox platform itself, but I think also on the Sand ecosystem in a broader manner, and all the various initiatives we're going to do. Concretely, what it means is we can give more autonomy to players for them to decide on the future development of the platform, to decide what people can do with their characters, their avatars, the gameplay mechanics for the upcoming seasons, the upcoming events, the reward as well that will be allocated to the various contests, game jams, event, and season. The status of the players based on the sand, the land that they own, the NFTs that they own, and also how the various NFTs, which can be the lands, the 25,000 land that we have in reserve, of the 10,000 of NFTs that we acquired over time from various creator, artists, and projects, will also be utilized and deployed and distributed to the people who want to submit proposals. So on the DAO of Sandbox, people will be able to post their own proposals. They are called the SIPs, Sandbox Improvement Proposals. And the community will be able to vote upon them to decide if they indeed want those initiatives to be supported, to go into action, and then us to follow with our council the deployment of it. And they will be able through that to express their voice, to decide how we're going to allocate a big budget, we'll tell more about it after, toward those actions.
Okay, thank you so much. I recognize the COO and the co-founder presentation because when there is this kind of talks and panels, etc., we get together and we talk about what we want to share with you guys. And one of the things was, do we present Sandbox? For someone like me, Sandbox doesn't need to be presented. You need to be living in the moon, and I think in the moon they know about Sandbox. But then Sebastien said, no, we need to always refresh the idea of what is Sandbox, because even if we built it in a way, it's evolving. So we need to always refresh where we are and where we're going. And when I got to know Cyril, who's first time on stage, by the way, so please clap your hands and give him some power. Cyril he likes to say that he's administrator, and I was like, no, administrator is not a good word. He's the designer of the DAO. So Cyril, really glad to meet you and very, very happy to be with you.
Glad to meet you. Thank you for having me on stage.
Could you tell us first a little bit more about you so that people get to know you, and then you tell me, because that's a question that I'd like to know, why now? Because it's been 4 years, we had a crash. We had so many moments where Sandbox could have come with this as a solution for the community. And why now? So introduce yourself and let's go.
Okay, so I'm Cyril. I've been in crypto for the last 2 years.
Like if you were Snoop.
Okay.
You go like that.
Yeah, for the last 2 years, been working in crypto. Before that, I was working in big corporation and I had enough. Decided that I really wanted to like my job. So I quit everything, started my own company, started working in crypto, getting to know more the beautiful community we see here today. This is my second time in NFC Lisbon today. And I got the chance to meet with Sebastien, to meet with the leadership team at the Sandbox who trusted me with this project. So really happy to be here today and to be here now representing this DAO.
Thank you so much. And the idea of releasing it now, did it come from the fact that you came with this willing to do it now? Or this is the discussion you had together, Sebastien, and then you said, okay, this is the right moment because everything is flying and let's do it now. You or Sebastien, whenever...
I think the way we've approached this is like it was the perfect time for the Sandbox to really embrace this DAO opportunity because they've been focusing on the creator economy, empowering more creators, and now what's the next step? How do you build beyond that? And the next step, natural step is, okay, we want to connect more intimately with the community, we want to involve the community. And the best way to do that now is a DAO, because with the DAO, you are able to cast your vote and you really listen to the community who vote with their sand, with their land, and express directly their opinions over the decision-making, over their proposal. They say, no, actually, we don't like that. And I think this is the first time we get that feedback loop very strongly from the community who can really vote and really have to listen. It's a commitment the Sandbox and the Sandbox DAO is making to the community to really listen to their feedback and act on it.
I'd like to add to that, like it's also about like the level of maturity we have as a platform and as a product. You know, we've seen various projects in the space that kind of started around the same time as Sandbox, and they went straight into decentralization right from the beginning. And we've seen like the lack of guidance from like the founders, from the team, the lack maybe of like support around their core product was actually a little bit detrimental to them to ensure that ultimately their goal to go fully decentralized would be reachable and drive the maximum impact in terms of community and so on. So initially, when we published the white paper, we planned to decentralize Sandbox over 5 years progressively. We are at year 4 right now. And I think the level of maturity that we have in terms of like our game maker tool, the fact that now people can publish on their land, that we constantly update the product so you can do really fun thing, real engaging thing, that we attracted enough brand and attention from all those projects, and we have 1,000 games and experience, and still I think like we have over 27,000 landowners as well, and more lands to come to be sold. It was the right time because we've been able to shift the ship in a way, in a certain direction, to inspire people to see what's possible, to drive the attention of the top brands, the top communities. And now we're able to progressively hand over to the community some of the decision, and then ultimately all the decision. So in a way, maybe in 2, 5 years, 10 years, Sandbox can be run without our core team at it, or even in a timeless manner, in full autonomy, where like we could exist forever. I think that's this idea of how do we exist forever, that's important to us. But it cannot be achieved if like you don't have the right size of engagement, community, product from the beginning. And the second thing is like it actually takes more time than we thought to establish properly a DAO, meaning with a proper legal setup, admin setup, putting the right people on board and the people who've been proving themselves as well in the community and can be trusted and inspiring more people. So it's all, again, like a time of like, I think like all the good things have to come at the right time, and this time is now.
In a world of women, they will love you with that. So the time is wow. No, but you know, I grasp something very important as a collector, some kind of builder in this space. Or you said we were waiting to have the right product, and this is very important to listen to, because you're saying we wanted to have the right product. So you're not looking at the outside world saying, okay, there is a bull market, a bear market, we're answering a need or whatever. You're saying, am I ready for that? And I think this is an approach that says, I am confident that I'm building for others. And the full idea of decentralization and saying few years from now, people will be able to rule it themselves is exactly why someone like me entered the space. But if we look at the big picture of all the DAOs that have been created for the past 4 years, I'd say that Ape DAO is doing pretty good, at least by coming with creative ideas and solutions. What would make the DAO unique in its own way? Not in comparison, but what would make it unique in its own way, Cyril?
I think I've been very lucky to have so many DAOs working before we started working on the Sandbox DAO. So I had the chance to take inspiration from the other successful project. You were quoting about Ape. A was a huge inspiration for me as well. What makes this DAO unique? I think it's our strategy for progressive decentralization. So because we're so committed to have this DAO being successful, we don't want to be like, okay, we are opening a DAO and then forget about it. It will run itself. We will, let it go. No, we're staying here. We're curating every proposal. So every proposal that will be put forward to the DAO, people have to adhere to a very strict template. My team will get in touch with them. They will help curate the SIP, the Sandbox Improvement Proposal, and really have an open conversation with the submitter, because we want to make sure the SIP that have been put forward for the community to vote on, they are of the best possible quality. So that's the level of commitment we're having here. And we will transition going forward toward more and more decentralization. So we open up the rules more and more, open up more treasury. The ability to propose SIPs will be more organic. We'll let it go. Like, we remove the tiny wheels. Like when you teach your daughter how to ride a bicycle, at some point you remove the tiny wheel. We're in tiny wheel mode, but we know that in the future we'll remove those wheels, and we hope that the DAO will be self-sufficient and run by itself.
Thank you.
I'd like to add two things that are quite unique about the DAO. I think it's about the creativity of our community and our values. Basically, we wanted to make sure that the way we drive that DAO forward will be aligned with the values that we carried over as well as building Sandbox. And some of those, we were just speaking about it in the previous panel, like how we drive impact, how we create a virtual world of culture that's also not just about gaming, but brings people from the fashion world, from the art world, from sport world, entertainment, music, and allow them to be more creative ultimately. The second thing is we've seen some of the major challenges that some of the previous DAOs have launched, and that basically those DAOs are being governed for self-interest. People use the majority of their coin to vote against proposal that actually would make a lot of sense for the greater good of the community, but because they are selfish, they want to maximize the outcome and return of their own token. So to prevent that, we incorporated in Sandbox a mechanism where not only you have the sand token for voting, but you also have the land. And land is an essential part of Sandbox. And actually, when you own one land, I think you get over 4,000 sand equivalent of voting power. So one land is 4,000 voice versus one sand, which means that the people who own land, the people who build on Sandbox, they have way more voting power on the weight of their decision than just the people who are owning the currency of the platform but might not be doing nothing on the build-up of the metaverse.
A believer versus someone who's just trying to flip something.
And we hope that this will drive a change. I don't know if it will ultimately, but this is the initial proposal. That's part of our constitution that can be voted right now. And it's very interesting experiments that I think will go forward.
This is pretty cool. I grasp two things. The template idea, I think it's brilliant because you have more than 5.9 million users, almost 6 million, I think, from all over the world. So it's huge, guys. So if you want to have everyone having a voice or whatever, you need to somehow create some kind of rules. And those templates come perfectly in that matter. And if you remember, the first question I asked when you told me about the DAO, I was like, if me as a holder of a land, how do I pretend to have a voice, and what is the voice that I have? So this makes unique, of course, the approach.
And we worked pretty hard on the simulation on that. That's roughly 27,000 unique landowners. On the other side, we have over 250,000 unique sand holders outside of the centralized exchange, and they hold on average 10,000 sand on their wallets. So that's the baseline we've used. Also, the way we look and why now, the underlying metric is, I think, about 75 to 80% of the sand is now in circulation. So there is no major influx of sand. There is no, we were looking at bubble map, what's the current distribution of sand? Is there any major cluster, top holder that could just by himself influence the whole vote? And ultimately, I don't think there is. And we created the weighted mechanism so that there isn't. So it's been always constantly in our mind, how do we ensure democracy at the very core?
And how we protect people.
How we protect the community as well.
Because if you have like a big holder, it's always a danger for the community. We've been there, done that, seen it all over the space.
It's super tricky because you have to balance being democratic, protecting against what we call whales, which are a massive carrier of a given token. And you've seen many times in other DAO, the whale can swing a vote left or right.
Of course.
And basically it will disincentivize any other community member because they were like, what's the point of me voting if anytime these guys vote, my vote doesn't matter anymore?
Yeah,
so like I was saying, the simulation, we're trying to balance all of that, making sure that landowners are rewarded, but the whales are rewarded because they've invested a lot, but not to the point where the small token holder doesn't matter.
So it's not a hybrid where the Sandbox team has voting rights at all. So it's going to be fully decentralized, or from the beginning it's fully decentralized?
As long as you have sand and land, you can vote.
Okay.
Right.
So if you're Sandbox, you have sand and land, meaning you can vote as well, which is good because you protect until you give full governance to the people. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, if you guys know me and seen me doing this somewhere, I like to project myself in the future and try to see from that standpoint. This is a question that I like because it takes you to a place where there is no friction. So let's say, for example, we're 10 years from now, okay? You've achieved anything that you wanted to achieve for the community and for Sandbox. Where are we for the DAO? And if you don't mind, I'll ask this one to Sebastien, and then I'll jump into you as well to tell me.
Well,
take your time. Take your time. This one is tricky.
tricky.
Don't answer. I think on an island drinking cocktails.
Well, if you know me well,
I know you well. I know you won't do that.
Yeah, you know, I'll always be involved into something, right? So ultimately, I think within 10 years, if we prove successful, I hope we can inspire more centralized world like Fortnite and Roblox to move forward the same, and we can establish like a legacy. Like I think about like what's legacy, like Second Life, World of Warcraft, Star Citizen. There are games that are existing for 20, 25 years. They brought together hundreds of millions of users, and they all been run centralized by one company and ultimately one guy at the top, the CEO and his board of investors, who took the majority of the decision. Even if you say we are community driven, we UGC, like a lot of that development is essentially driven by like the financial interest from there. It's really interesting to see how a true like open world can exist in its most pure form, where like the players will have and the creators will have ultimately that whole autonomy to decide where the next development will go, to decide how the funds are going to be reinvested, and how like the mission we can carry. Sometimes I also think like the Sandbox is much bigger than the Sandbox. I don't know how I can explain it, but I think Sandbox by itself is just a major brand that people love. People love to go to the Sandbox event physically. They love to connect. They love the brand. They love the Sand token itself, even if they're not using the Sandbox as a product, as a platform. So how can we carry and use that to establish, again, a much bigger legacy where people feel like they are part, they are connected, they are involved, they are decision maker, they are governing that world, and how the Sandbox, how the Sand token and the whole gaming ecosystem, and much bigger than a gaming ecosystem, can exist. So that's more or less my vision in 10 years. And
for being around you guys, and we've been to many conferences where I listened to you deeply, because the way I saw Sandbox is how we can rethink the way society works in a way. It's a world, it's a digital world with its rules and its idea of being fair and decentralized. And I think you're moving forward to this idea. So when you talked about values, this is deeply linked to the values of Sandbox. And I like the fact that you talk about legacy. So what is your point of view, Cyril?
I really like what you said about redesigning a society. I think there's some learnings we can take also from our existing society, right? Because we've coming from 2,000 years of democracy. And when I was writing the DAO's constitution, I was like, what's my inspiration? I can take inspiration from another DAO, but actually I ended up taking inspiration from the American Constitution as well. Because we should not forget, like, we've been to this point now today in our society because of 2,000 years of trials and error. So I think it's a good thing that while we're trying to reinvent it with the modern tools of crypto, of Web3, tokenization, DAO, etc., not forgetting where we come from so we can try and do better. And there was really a struggle for me at first when we've designed this DAO. It's like, okay, we want new rules, but actually I've faced the same problem as anybody who worked in, in the government potentially faced when designing a new law. How to make it fair, how to make sure people won't cheat, etc., etc.
So I thank you for that, because this is the perfect transition to my next question. I love it. How technically the DAO is designed in terms of governance of council members, advisors. How did you design it in terms of giving responsibilities in that?
It's a good question. Thank you. So there's basically two bodies. There's the advisors. I think we saw Ina previously on the previous stage. She's one of the advisors for the Sandbox DAO. And the advisors are really like cultural ambassador. They're real to keep us in check, making sure we are still doing this for the community. We don't forget about them, and also bring new ideas to the table. We also have a second body, which is the council. And the council is really the people that are the warrant of the vision for the Sandbox DAO. They're making sure that every SIP, that Sandbox improvement proposal that comes through, goes through their desk and they can fact check it, making sure that, okay, yes, this is with the ethos of the Sandbox, this is respecting our values, this is respecting the Constitution, etc. And the last body is just people who run the operation behind the scene, but they're not actually governing anything. They're just making sure the stuff works.
A quick note, like the council is composed of 5 people. Those 5 people include Yatsu, the CEO and chairman of an IMOCA brand, myself, Shannon Snow, which is the CEO of World of Women, and we have also Frédéric Montagnon, which is like a serial entrepreneur, and Jean-Michel Payon, which is an ex-executive of Ledger and the Grail Capital. So we wanted people who have already established a good name and trust within the community, who are already veteran within their space and that represent those values as well. And then we have the advisory, which is like people who already are not just KOLs, influencers, etc. We are not selling influence or attention. We really want people who understand what is Sandbox, who've already committed or launched projects themselves in Sandbox. Ina Moja launched Code Green. She's a United Nations ambassador. People who are pushing for education, for different thematics around sport, environment, etc. And that also represents, going back to what makes Sandbox different, is creativity and culture. They are representative both in inclusivity and diversity and region of the world, the existing community of Sandbox too.
So you designed it with five advisors, let's say? 5
council
members.
And 7 advisors.
And you have 3 bodies, right?
Right.
3.
And the starting point, like that might evolve. People can vote and change it over time as well through SIPs.
Have you ever thought of an idea of having also another body that has nothing to do with Sandbox, that would actually look at what you're doing? You know, like, for example, some companies in the US, because you were talking about the US regulation, they have to talk to other board members from other companies that look at what they're doing and the way they're doing it. Are you in some way, at some point when the market and the companies are strong enough, go to, I don't know, ApeCoin or Bored Ape Yacht Club or Yuga Labs and say, okay, look at what we're doing. What do you think?
But what we were saying previously is like just the phase 1 right now. Like we'll have a bigger evolution of the DAO later this year. I think let's see how it starts. Let's see how people get actually engaged and vote. So some of our success metric will be to see the number of proposals, the number of votes, like the participation level, and like which are passing through and being approved or not. And also, once those are being approved, what's the delivery behind? Because then we can ensure like the transparency and making sure like the budget is well allocated and people are doing what they requested funds to be allocated. And if that doesn't work, there's always this possibility to make SIP, to have this external auditing or advisory council that will look again, challenge the execution, like in some governments that's already in place. And I think you need to have some sort of like critical size of activity before we start to hire both side of the spectrum.
I really like this approach of responsibility. I think it's exactly what we were talking about before.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on this. The community will keep us in check, actually. We don't need an external body. I mean, we've published 3 proposals. By the way, you can all go vote now on the 3 proposals that are live today. One of them is the Constitution. We're already having lots of questions. Like, why do you do this? What happened to my land? Can I be sure my land is well recognized? You know, you have to re-explain stuff. And even when you do, sometimes the people just disagree with you, right? So the community will constantly keep us in check. And we have this forum that is open for everybody to come and voice their opinion. And we're trying, for now, we are positioned when we can really listen and read everything. We respond to everything.
Yeah, I really like it, because if we think about it as designing a world with its own rules, citizens, they always have this tendency of saying, what are my rights, without knowing what they have to do, like voting or behaving well or whatever. So you are designing with this idea of putting your community, saying, okay, we're going to design the framework for you. Everything is going to be ready, but you are responsible. And if tomorrow you're not voting for like a year and nobody's voting, then we will have to either rethink the DAO or kill it.
Actually, you use a word that really resonates a lot with me, is like citizen. A few times on stage, I compared Sandbox to like a digital nation where we'll have like a government body and so on. And what you just said is very interesting. Like, I'm part of the council. Like, if we don't perform at the council, people can vote against us, like continuing next year to be part of the council, that they can choose. Anyone can also apply to become a council member, say, I will do much better than those. So effectively, we're doing that now for the community. And if I don't do a good job, people can like essentially fire me from that. I think that's very powerful in a way. Like, when can you fire the CEO of a company by being a community member of like owning sand and owning land of the project that you actually get involved into, right?
I'd say it's fantastic, because this is also with the mentality of Web3. You know, we usually tell any kind of chiller in a space, we say, put your money where your mouth is. So basically, this is what you're doing. You say, we're taking responsibility to do it, but fire me if I'm not good enough, and take my place and just do it. And if not, let's reconsider that. But one thing that I know is this involves money. So let's talk about money. Did you allocate some kind of budget for that? Did you discuss it? Are you still in discussion?
Yeah. So we're really proud to say that the annual budget for the Sandbox DAO is 25 million sand.
Annual?
Annual budget.
I didn't know that. Yeah, you can applaud, guys. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And that's how we...
Just is over $20 million, more or less. At
How much euros?
Same.
And this budget has been separated into different buckets. So the idea is, when you make a proposal, you can choose to which bucket you're going to tap into. That way we leave room for everybody, right? We have bucket dedicated to content, dedicated to charity, dedicated to NFT. So depending on the proposal, because like I said, everybody can propose. We're just going to help you along the way. And part of that is to say, okay, what is the best bucket you're going to tap into? And the next two steps, for example, one is about a charity, right? One is supporting the Red Cross. So this is the kind of bucket you have. And this is also a way to make sure everybody has a voice, and this is not like always the same type of proposal that go through. And the way this money is going to be spent is actually transparently visible on our website.
Not the first two.
The first three SIPs, it doesn't cost anything because they are constitutional SIP, but the next two SIPs that will be published tonight at midnight, they will cost money, right? And you can go connect on our website and you will see how much we've spent. So this is also to make people responsible and accountable. Like, every time we get proposal that asking for a ton of money, you see the money disappear from the budget. So the idea is to people like, okay, all right, okay, maybe I should calm down, because there's not much left.
I wish countries and government were actually publishing the budget and what's left for the rest of the year.
They
can do that.
They wouldn't give them the same budget the next year. That's the problem.
They're printing money, but that's another topic.
Yeah, they know that. When we arrived here, Ina Moja was here. She's an advisor as well. And we've been talking about her implication into the green, in the green community, and how can we make the world better in that regard. And I know one of the SIPs is regarding carbon offset.
Yeah, correct.
This is very interesting to me. So can you just go deeper into this?
SIP 5 published tonight. So part of the two SIPs that I've mentioned, one is for the Red Cross. The other one is, we partner up with a company called NZC, and it's about, basically we're buying trees. We're buying worth of $100,000 of trees to participate in the carbonification of the atmosphere. Yeah, thank you. And that's really how committed we are to this kind of project as well. And these guys, they're actually Web3 players. So they will create their own token, we'll create a pair with them later on. And that's really to enforce like a positive ecosystem.
It's all on chain, it's all transparent. So you can also see like the source of the fund, where it's applied and where the tree is effectively. So again, back to responsibility and transparency. And if they do good, then they can choose to reapply for a bigger budget afterwards. And the committee will decide if they want it or not.
So that means if you're doing good, you can ask for more money. This is exactly what you just said.
I hope that it will be that, yes.
This is very good. So I would like to applaud you guys for this, and especially Cyril. Not that you didn't do good, but Cyril is his first time, and
Thank you, everybody.
Vraiment bravo. You did very well, and I told Cyril one thing. I said, you have no idea how important your role is, and you're gonna become a superstar. You just don't know it. Stay like that, pure, and we love you this way. And I wish you really the best for that, Cyril. Thank you
very much.
Bringing someone like him on the table. He's a really great guy. And yeah, let's jump into the question, guys. So thank you for attending. Thank you for being here. Fiona, how are you doing? So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. And this is your time. Don't be shy. Oh, I like it. So first, introduce yourself. And
Hi, I'm Mary Rabin, founder of Fleet Collective. And I have a question regarding like having a DAO where anyone can submit a proposal. It must be a lot of proposals to evaluate, to vote on. Wouldn't it be interesting? Should I like submit a SIP for tooling, for using AI maybe to go through proposals and maybe like tag them, help people browse through all of these proposals and vote for the ones on topics that are most like interested in, for example?
Well, I think it's a good problem to have, first of all, that really show that democracy is effective and people are inspired. So like we're going to see in the coming days and weeks, like all those ideas, proposal, we'll provide templates. And then if the challenge comes, like the 5 council member renewing every week to review them isn't enough time and manpower to review it. Like I think like AI can be a great tool to assist us in prioritizing and helping as well the community to discover those via the forum and be able to support the one that they could drive more impact or be more meaningful to them as well.
any other question? No? Great. Okay. So I know your time is highly valuable, and I thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Sebastien. Thank you, Cyril.
When the pimp's in the crib, ma, drop it like it's hot.